ladies and gentlemen. So, one of the cool games from Pro League this week is a TvP between Maru and Tails played on Frost. And it's kind of a quirky little game because Maru makes like 10 plus hellions. And he ends up also getting cloak banshees in the TvP matchup, which is kind of like, whoa, you can make cloak banshees? That's not illegal? What? So, I'm just gonna do a quick breakdown to as to what Maru's build was and what he did in response to Tails' build and all that good stuff. Boom. Alright, so one of the big things that jumps out on me is that this is a 4-player map and Maru has decided to do this build on a 4-player map. And what this means is it allows, on 4-player maps, Protoss players, especially at the higher levels, like Masters and up, they don't like to scout that much. Like, you don't usually see a probe scout very fast, and as a result, a kind of wonky build such as this can go undetected for a very long time. Excuse me, poster. I'm trying to watch the game. They're nice and stuff, but sometimes they just get in the way. So Maru, he's opening up a gas first build into a rack, so it's 12 gas, 13 racks. I believe he makes 1 marine, and then he makes a reactor, and then he just starts pumping out a bunch of hellions. And Maru's aggression, it's very interesting to see like him trade just maybe for like a couple probes for hellions, probes for hellions, probes for hellions, probes for hellions, until he reaches this tipping point in which Tails can no longer continue the game because his economy is just shattered, and Maru is able to defeat him off of 1 base. Now, after going through this game and thinking about it, so the response that we see here from Maru is he sees the Twilight Council from this game. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, sorry. But anyways, he sees the Twilight Council this game, and we have to take into consideration that this build he might have done it differently versus a robo expand versus a Stargate opener. Like versus a Stargate opener, he probably would have made a Viking, and there's also the potential to expand. Versus the robo opener, he might have done a Marauder Hellion all in and pulled a bunch of SCVs as well after doing a significant amount of damage with his drops. But we don't know that for sure. Those are just some ideas to throw out there on how you can follow this up if you're playing versus different types of play other than in the game. But for now, it's just going to be a what does Maru do with this build versus a blink-based build or blink/DT build, because he saw the Twilight Council, and that obviously influence his decision as to what he's going to be doing. Right away, nothing really stands out except for the fact that he's making double reactored hellions. So if we take a look here at the minimap, Tails kind of got a bit fortunate having that. Is that no, I actually don't think that's a probe scout. Crap, I was talking about. Okay, never mind. So there is a probe scout coming through. So Tails is scouting for it. So that's the #1 step that the Protoss player needs to do in order to survive. Otherwise, he's going to have a very hard time and most likely lose. So he's doing a good job and he's probe scouting. Maru, he's making 2 hellions, 1 marine, and he's going to be making some medvacs fairly shortly. Since he's going for a double reactored or just a reactored hellion build, I don't think he had plans to expand out of this at all, and I'm pretty sure it was going to be a 1 base all-in, or at least very heavy 1 base pressure play. As we can see here, Maru, he's just going to be he wants to sacrifice these hellions. Obviously, he's seen the natural already from the earlier SCV scout, and since the natural just warps in, there's no point in checking over here in the mineral line because it's just going to be up, and there's going to be little to no probes. In fact, there shouldn't really be any probes over here at all because Tails was able to scout that it was a gas first build. So that's why Maru decides to go straight up into the main, and he also does this to obtain some valuable scouting information at about 5 minutes and 30 seconds here. And that's the time when a Robo Bay goes down, when a Twilight Council goes down, when a Stargate goes down. So it's basically the equivalent of a Reaper Scout. And that's another cool thing about Maru's build, is that he's harassing so much of Tails' base. He's pretty much gotten a whole scout off, as well as all this damage he's able to do as well. So even though he might not be, like, just the fact that he's able to get this kind of scouting off means that he can transition into different things. So like if you saw a double forge, so now his play is going to change based on what he sees. Like you could see a double forge, you could see Robo and Forge, you could see Robo, he could see a Stargate, he could see a Twilight Council, you could see 3 more gateways going up, you could see 5 more gateways going up. I think I hit all the possible different things a Protoss player can do at this time based off of a fast expansion. So this is a critical point in the game where Maru now decides to change his build based on what he scouts. And he sees the Twilight Council. He actually clicks on it too, which is pretty cool. Cool timing to pause at. And we see here, after his Hellions scout out the Twilight Council, their next priority is to deal as much damage as possible to the probes. I believe Maru, yeah, he only gets 1 probe right now, so he only gets 1 worker for 2 Hellions. It might not seem like a good trade, but he was able to get some valuable scouting information off, and that's all he really needed to get off for it to be worth it. And any probe kills on top of this is completely worth it. It's more of a bonus advantage. He wasn't really aiming to get probe kills with those first 2 Hellions. Now Maru, he's going to be doing a medevac drop. And now notice here, he's adding a tech lab, he's adding a second gas, and he's going to soon be adding another tech lab to the starport as well. And he's doing this based off of the fact that it's going to be a blink build or a DT build. So I'm pretty sure against either one, and even if it's not a 2-base blink all-in, where Tails gets a robotics facility and transitions into Colossi, or gets a Templar Archives, or some sort of transition out of it, I think Maru's plan from here is to do a 1-base Marauder, Hellion, Medevac, SCV pool all-in, and really hit Tails hard and beat him after dealing a lot of economy and kind of keeping Tails on like less than his 2-base optimal saturation. Okay, good. Everything's recording. Oh, I have nightmares because one time I had to record. I was recording a long game. It was about an hour long, and it didn't record. It got corrupted. So I just want to make sure everything's going well. Because it's a one-man team, one-man operation here. Too poor to afford some production crew or executive assistants or director. Imagine Martin Scorsese directing this for me. That'd be funny. Alright, so as we see here, Maru, oh my god, this non-production tab. You know, Tails actually might have been thinking about expanding right now. That actually kind of makes sense because god damn it, the production tab. Alright, so we'll put that in the back of our heads about Tails expanding. But Maru here, he's going to be doing a 2-prong drop. So he goes in with these 2 Hellions. The attack consists of going in with these 2 Hellions and then boosting the medevac into the main base. It's important to note when Maru boosts the medevac. Like, he could just land the units at the edge of the base and then just slowly creep in. But he decides to boost straight into the mineral line. And once again, that illustrates Maru's objective of the drop and of all of this harass, which is to kill probes. To kill probes. To kill probes. So that even though Tails is going to be on 2 bases, he won't have a 2-base economy for him. So it'll make Maru's 1-base all-in. Presumably, we're just presuming that. We don't know for sure whether Maru is going to do a 1-base all-in or not. but it's pretty likely. I think a Marauder, Hellion, Medvac, SCV pull against just like pure Blink Stalkers and a Photon Overcharge would actually be fairly strong. So I think that's the most likely follow-up if Tails hadn't gone for a Blink all-in build. Alright, but I digress. I'm diverging off topic here. So keep in mind here that the goal here is to kill as many probes as possible. He already gets a couple. I think that was like 3 in the natural. And lucky for him, he also, all of these units, they're now being kind of like pulled towards these 2 Hellions. Like, obviously none of these units are going to get out of alive. Really, the only unit that's important to get out alive is the Medvac. But every other unit, it doesn't matter. And if you can kill just probes for your units, then you'll be doing the build, or you'll be in a good position for the next part of the build. So Maru's getting some units there, and notice he's boosting in now, and he times it so that he boosts in, and the boost will wear off about the time that he gets into the mineral line. Like, once again, he could have like dropped over here and then walked in, but then the probes would have had enough time to run already. And like, that Photon Overcharge is a pretty decent timing. Tails, unfortunately, he's helping Maru like win the game by attacking the probes, attacking the units with the probes, because Maru kind of like wants that to happen. The most ideal situation here would be to run these probes away rather than attack him, and Tails realizes his mistake and starts running them. But he loses a couple more probes because of that. As we can see here, he's doing like a good job. It's kind of weird that he doesn't have... So the mothership core is out, these 2 Hellions are out, and Maru's rallying 2 more Hellions as well. And I think he's also stopped SCV production as well. He has enough to be like... So he has 2 gases, he has 19 SCVs on the mineral patches, and 6 SCVs in gas. So he's obviously not looking to expand right now. And he's obviously not looking to expand anytime soon because of the cloak banshees, and the concussive shells, and the marauder production, which further supports my theory that this is a 1 base all-in. Alright, so doing good damage. He's targeting as many probes as possible. Remember, the more probes you can get, the better. And he also like gets 2 more Hellions in. They just run straight up. They don't really do much damage, but if the probes had run to the natural immediately from Tails when this drop hit, then those 2 Hellions might have been able to do more damage. So although they didn't do any damage per se, they were in a position to be able to take advantage of these moving probes that are trying to get away from the first medevac harass. So like, they were setting themselves up to get probe kills by being in that kind of position. And fortunate for Maru, he gets that medevac out alive. And he's also made a second medevac. He hasn't gone straight into cloak banshees, which also supports my theory that it's a 1 base all-in, because if you have like 3 to 4 medevacs, or like 2 to 3 medevacs and a couple cloak banshees, or like you just get a cloak banshee to do harass, like 1 or 2 of them, as long as he doesn't have detection, and then you get like a medevac, and then you boost it over, and then you do the SCV pull all-in. It's really strong, especially the medevac's healing up. That'll pretty much negate the photon overcharge, and you really need like splash damage or a bunch of units to deal with that kind of a Marauder Hellion SCV pool attack. So, oh yeah, so Maru, he's getting a second medevac, which is very interesting, because that basically says that he wants to keep attacking as much as possible. It's not gonna, he doesn't need the cloak banshee necessarily immediately, and so he also makes the second medevac before he makes the tech lab as well. That's an important build order thing that we have to take note of if you are to copy this build correctly. You don't want to make the tech lab and then the medevac. So having a second medevac also allows him to load up a drop and to prepare another attack as fast as possible. Not only does he not have to wait for this medevac to come back, he already has a medevac, and all he has to do is wait for the units to pop out, then he can boost on over to the main base. instead of like waiting for that really, really slow trip back. The walk of shame. Or, not the... It's more like a ride of shame, I guess. Kind of interesting. Maru, he's sending this SCV over. I don't quite know why this SCV is going where it's going, but I'm just looking at it on the minimap. Alright, but he has this cloak banshee. Ha, lol, it's not the cloak banshee yet. I'm losing my mind. Alright, it's just a hellion drop. It's just a hellion drop. And one thing that Maru's constant aggression is also doing is that it's forcing photon overcharges out of this mothership core. And it's really doing a good job of keeping it low. Like right now, he doesn't have any photon overcharge because he used it on the main base like 50 seconds ago, I guess. Like it's barely not enough for photon overcharge. And if he waited like 10 more seconds, then he would have gotten a photon overcharge off. So it's very, very crisp execution by Maru. And once again, he just wants to do as much damage as possible. There's no need to stay in the natural because there's 3 stalkers in the mothership core here, so he goes up into the main to see, also not only to deal probe damage, but he's also getting a good scout in again. So what Maru is able to do, he goes in through the natural, he kills a bunch of probes, he looks around, he takes a peek. There's no third and fourth gas geyser, so he goes up into the main, takes a peek, he sees a bunch of gateways going down, and he knows that it's gonna be a blink all in now. And so now he's just gonna do a bunch of damage, and FYI, it does take 3 hellions to one-shot a probe, so that is the magical number. I'm very interested as to why Maru has the probe or the SCV there. That's interesting. Alright, so he gets a decent number of workers off. If we take a look here. And he's also adding a bunker too. I don't know exactly why he's adding a bunker. It might be for possible DTs. I think Maru should have a scan saved up because this is the time that DTs would hit, and he doesn't know for sure if it's going to be DTs or if it's going to be blink or not yet. Ooh, 3 probe kills, 4, 5. I think he got like 6 probe kills right there. That's not bad. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so he got 12 total kills there. That was pretty good for 3 hellions. It's finally starting to pay off, and all of his earlier aggression, what that did was it kind of like chipped away so that Tails' economy wouldn't be in the greatest position. Like he was still slightly ahead, but now he's even, and Maru's even ahead because he has that mule. Oh, damn it, they didn't show the energy on the command center. But I'm pretty sure he had his scan up. Otherwise, there's no reason to get the bunker up that fast. And unfortunately for Maru, this medevac is going to get picked off. Very, very too bad for him. That could have done a huge amount of damage if he was able to get into the main. But for now, all he has to do now is defend this blink attack because he has a huge economic lead right now, and the Protoss player, he doesn't have enough money to make a forge or a robotics facility and to do an attack or anything. These hellions forcing warpins at the natural, even though they didn't get to do a ton of damage, like that medevac got picked off, which was quite unfortunate. These hellions were still able to force in warpins and get a couple more probe kills, further chipping away at Tails' economy. And now this cloak banshee is really going to seal the deal here. It's just such a brilliant little quirky strategy. Maru has 3 bunkers for the blink defense. He doesn't pull any SCVs immediately. I think that's like he doesn't have any SCVs to repair the bunker, like standing by. I think it's because he needs as much minerals as possible to keep making the Hellions, the Marauder, and the Banshee. And he ends up pulling them only after the bunker dies because he wants to keep them on the mineral lines till the last possible second. And now that Cloak Banshee can't even be attacked, and it's dealing a huge amount of DPS, and this is still like a scary attack, and Maru's losing a lot of SCVs, but he has Tails in checkmate. Tails has even less SCVs, and that Cloak Banshee is killing everything at home. So essentially, Tails is caught in a checkmate here because of the Cloak Banshee. Okay. Which makes me wonder, like, what Maru would have done exactly if it hadn't been a Blink All-In, and if it was like a Robo or a Stargate. I think versus a Starport, he would have made a Viking, and then a... I don't know about the Cloak Banshee part, but I think he only makes the Banshees, and I guess we can confirm it by looking exactly when he makes the Banshees here. So he knows there's a Twilight. He doesn't know if it's DTs yet or not. But a Cloak Banshee against just I think a Cloak Banshee would be pretty acceptable against just a Twilight Council, because the possible follow-ups are Blink and DTs, and neither of them has detection. And he also hasn't seen a Forge yet. Forges are typically going to be delayed with a Twilight Council if Blink is researching, or if there's a Dark Shrine going down. And even cannons, they aren't really that great at defending against Cloak Banshees. Everyone who plays TvT and puts a missile turret and still loses a bunch of SCVs should be able to relate. Alright, so Maru, yeah, I'm pretty sure Maru starts the... He does this in response to... Yeah, this attack just occurred, and now he's gonna put down his tech lab. Let's see the timing on it. Yep, so if that's like 12 seconds, so if we go back 12 in-game seconds, that's 11, that is. Okay, so this attack occurred. Maru saw that there was just a Twilight Council, so that's what prompted him to start making the Cloak Banshees. I really don't think, like, he still has Marauders even now, and he's starting Concussive. I think he could have had the possibility of starting either Stim right now and expanding. Well, he could have either started Stim to do a later timing attack against maybe a Robo Bay or a Starport play. Against like an Oracle, he definitely would have made a Viking because he doesn't have enough defense at home. And maybe like 1 or 2 Widow Mines. And he also has enough money to expand right now if he chose to. So if maybe he was playing versus a more standard build, like maybe a Robo Forge build, then he could have gotten an expansion and still kept doing Harass with the Hellions and then transitioned into Bio. There's really a lot of options here, and the only ones, unfortunately, that we get to see is Maru being able to respond to a Blink All-In. But a build like this, it's only good against stuff. Like, the only reason he's doing this is based off of what he saw. So it's very unfortunate that we probably won't see any more games of this strategy in the near future, because it is such a unique pull out of your hat one-time strategy. It's great to mix in if you are like generally a standard player and you want to like throw your opponent off guard here, and that's what Maru's doing. Yeah, like it could have just as easily been like Stim, Marauder, Hellion, and Medevac all in with SCVs against a Robo Forge. I keep saying that because I'm trying to think if one's better than the other, or he could have expanded. But I think it was going to be a one-base all-in either way. It just depended like what kind of one-base all-in it was, and Maru's adapting here to what Tails is doing with his scouting information. another attack's coming. Maru, he's doing his constant drop harass. This would have happened regardless, and like still does damage even though the medevac in a hellion dies. So that's just a result of Maru being able to chip away and do so much damage early on, and not only do damage but also stop mining from occurring as well. By like if the probes get pulled off the mineral line, then they just lose mining time, which is equally as important as killing probes. That's really the only thing that's guaranteed to happen. Like, you're not guaranteed to kill probes, but you're guaranteed to stop mining from occurring. But yeah, so essentially all that happened this game, yeah, it's a GG now. So I'm not gonna let it go to the end of the video. There's no point. So, just a recap of what happened. Maru did a reactor hellion build. He sent his first 2 hellions in to scout. They arrived at the main base at about 5 minutes and 30 seconds. They bypassed the natural to go straight into the main base to look for some scouting information. And then Maru did a drop with, I think, another 2 hellions and 3 marines. He boosted it into the main, and he lined it up so that the execution would be 2 hellions rallied towards the natural would reach at the same time as the dropship being boosted into the main. So it's just a multi-pronged attack right there. And it forced out a photon overcharge, and Maru was able to get a good amount of probe kills from that. And he was also able to get a full scout off of Tails' base as well, which is very important. And at that attack with the first medevac and all those hellions was when Maru decided to get the cloak banshee and to get concussive shells, because he saw that all those, no, he didn't see them yet, but he does another hellion drop, and like he starts the banshee because he sees the Twilight Council. He knows that there's going to be delayed detection, and then he sees all those gateways coming up with the hellion drop, so he makes concussive shells and he adds on 2 additional bunkers to the one he has already. And that pretty much prepares him for everything that Tails can throw at him. And Maru is able to take a very interesting, unusual, but also fun to watch win as well. So that pretty much wraps up my breakdown of this odd game. I hope it makes more sense to you guys, and it is very odd because it wasn't played in a standard setting where we can see what the main purpose of the build was. This was just a reaction to the blink all-in. So yeah, it's just unfortunate we didn't get to see that. Unfortunate, 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 unfortunate. I cannot underline accent that enough. And yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up. And remember to subscribe if you guys like these videos, so you can see the next new ones coming out. I unfortunately don't make them on a regular basis currently. I'm busy preparing for the Breaking Out Invitational Tournament, so I'm like doing a lot of practice myself right now. So it all comes down to, I guess, if I feel like it or not. I know that's kind of like a bad excuse, but sometimes after playing for like 5 or 6 hours, I just feel like bleh, and I just don't feel like researching something and watching the game and looking at all the important points to do. But yeah, alright, so that pretty much wraps it up. Good night, guys, and I will see you guys all